I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. Hi, everybody, and welcome today. I'm excited to introduce you to Jean Kelly, founder of Jean Kelly Leadership and Consulting. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really excited that you're here.
Thank you for your invitation.
You're welcome. We're going to do a deep dive into your career journey over the time that we have together. So I'm hoping you can give us just a 90-second overview of what it is you do and how you got into doing it. That'd be awesome.
Well, I started out in the staffing world. Back then, they called it a personnel agency. And then in the 80s, I opened a temporary help company. And then I sold those companies to my son and walked away and hung out my shingle as an executive coach after having been to Harvard executive MBA program.
Awesome. And what led you to doing the executive coaching?
I've been coaching, if you're finding jobs for people or finding people for positions, there's a lot of coaching that goes with that naturally. And there's a lot of cheerleading and preparing people. And my hobby is clinical and industrial psychology. So I just blended some experience with my hobby and it worked immediately.
Interesting. And I have to tell you, one of my best friends is an organizational psychologist. So, yeah, and we jive really well together. Awesome. So a little bit of a career transition there for you. And how many years you've been working in the executive coaching space?
Over 20.
Over 20. Got it. Okay. So tell me, what do you see the biggest problem in your industry right now, and what are you doing to resolve that?
I don't know what I can do to resolve that. There are some really flaky people that put their name out there and say, I'm a coach. And they're usually not executive coaches. They're generally life coaches that are doing that as a side hustle in some cases. So it's just not regulated, and I don't know how to begin to do that. So I just stick to what I do well and just keep going forward.
So, and I'm curious, you're having to probably put a lot of emphasis on your credentials and what separates you from the masses, or is that the case?
Well, I have a reputation that's already built, so people already know that I'm not like everybody else. And I am more of an artist than a scientist when it comes to coaching. I use my intuitive ability to help bring people out and to talk about the differences in where they see themselves versus where the people that report to them see them.
Okay, that's awesome, and that's got to be a unique skill set to be able to dig that out of people so that they even see it and believe it themselves.
And believe it is, yes, and believe it.
That's right. That's right. And I know, and I don't know if this is a woman thing or not, but it seems like we're our own worst critics. So helping women to really understand and recognize that's got to be inspirational.
Yes, unfortunately, I don't get to work with very many women because I work in the C-suite. So it's presidents, vice presidents. Um, I'll get as far as chief financial officers. So I've only worked with a few women, and they're either in accounting or engineering.
See, that's a whole nother podcast conversation in itself, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Wow, wow. So tell me, where do you see your industry going in the next 5 to 10 years, and how do we get more regulations in place or oversight of what it takes to hang a shingle.
Well, I think we need to educate the consumer because they're the ones that are making the choices. And there are a lot of people that do that on impulse, and there's nothing you could change about that. But educating the consumer, like, does this person have a certification? Where were they educated? How long have they been doing it? What did they do before? I mean, there are a lot of ways that a potential consumer could find out things about someone. And of course, referral, word of mouth is the best way to do that.
Absolutely. And I think too, in today's instant, let's just Google something. I mean, Facebook ads pop up. And the next thing I know, I'm getting ready to buy something without even investigating whether it's a legitimate offer. So I
Yes.
think appealing to people to actually do a little research before they hire a professional.
Yes, it's expensive when you hire a professional of any kind, a CPA, a lawyer, an executive coach. It's expensive. So you want to get a bang for your buck, and you do want to see references and and check them.
Got it. So tell me what makes you unique in the way that you're working with people in the C-suites?
People tell me everything. I don't know if that makes me unique, but I can get on an elevator and I can have someone's life story by the sixth floor, and I'm not engaging them. It just happens.
And you do you credit that to just your openness or
I probably come off as non-judgmental,
mm,
and it's true because I've been doing this for so long, and I've interviewed 10, way over 10,000 people personally when I was
wow.
in the personnel and staffing business. So, yeah, I guess I'm easy to talk to.
That's a gift right there too. It almost sounds like how we go to our hairdresser and spill things we wouldn't tell anybody else.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, that's awesome. And I'm making a note on this as well. So I would love to ask, this is going to be a personal question, but tell me what is the biggest failure, or we can couch it as a challenge that you've faced to this point in your life, whether that's professionally or personally, and how has that shaped the way you're doing business today?
A failure.
Or challenge.
Probably the biggest challenge that I've had recently is 2 years of caring for my mother and working at the same time, which is hard to do. And we were able to get her into living in a nice place. Um, but the nursing staff forgot her medication, so I took the job over again. So I moved in there and supervised a care team of 5 that I hired myself. And what I learned from that is that I can do way more than I think I can do. When you've got that kind of challenge, you just put your foot in front of the other one and you just keep going. So right after my mother died, our daughter passed away. And so that was another dramatic event. And just keep going.
Well, and I think nobody appreciates that until they have that life experience.
Yeah.
And we do. I mean, we have no choice. We just have to keep going, right? So
Yeah.
my heart breaks for you to have those two tragic losses back to back like that.
Thank you. Yeah,
Mm.
it was hard for a while. Um, but there's just so much to be grateful for in this life that I just tried to keep that attitude of gratitude going. I'm a product of the positive thinking movement. And I went to all the seminars and I sat on the front row and I just more, give me more. And I read all the books, way over 100. And I think that probably, that and my mentor are the two things that got me on a trajectory of success.
That is awesome. So tell me a little bit more about your mentor relationship.
Oh my, she was so beautiful. Well, she still is. Um, I was just a kid and I was looking for a job and I ended up working for her. I don't want to make this story too long. I ended up working for her. And my first day, she walked in. I had my own private office, by the way. She walked in, handed me an application, and she said, "Find this girl a job today." That was my entire training. So she trained a little bit like men do. They throw you in the water and see if you can swim. And if you can't, goodbye. And if you can, come on. So I placed that person in a job at was called Skaggs Alpha Beta. And so I went in, I said, I got her a job. Can I have another application? And that's kind of how it started.
That is fabulous. And that's the thing is I think just jumping in and you figure out what you got to do and you do it. And then if you're willing to do that, then leaders know, hey, I've got somebody that's willing to do the work, right?
Yeah, and it was commission, straight commission. So
Wow.
that was pretty I mean, I knew if I didn't make placements, I didn't eat.
Good incentive, right? Or
Very good.
motivation. Right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you another personal question. If you could have lunch with one person, either living or deceased, who would that be and why?
Probably Mike Wallace, who was on 60 Minutes, and he's one of the most interesting people that I've observed on TV, and he seemed approachable and he seemed grounded and real, and he knew so much. So I would just love to talk to him about what he knew.
Oh, that's fabulous. And that word approachable, that's the one I was trying to think of earlier when you were talking about the 6 second elevator ride and you being people just opening up to you. So you are very approachable. That's awesome.
It kind of makes my husband nuts, because we'll be at a restaurant on the road someplace, and the server, I'll have her entire history by the time we finish the meal.
That's fun. That's awesome. So tell me, if people wanted to work with you in your coaching business, what would be the best way for them to reach out to you, connect with you?
Sure, sure. I'm also starting collegemajorfinder.com, getting ready to launch that next month.
Take a second to tell us about that.
Oh, this is so much fun. Well, I love students and I adopt surrogate grandkids all the time. And I use an instrument that's very sophisticated, measurement personality instrument. It's called the Berkman method. And I'm going to use it with students to help them know who they are a little earlier. Sometimes they're 30 when they figure that out, sometimes 50, to figure out what they need to make their world work and help their parents in supporting the students while they are choosing the major and going to college.
Wow, how helpful. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So that's a new program that you've got going on. Okay, so where are we going to find you?
Anybody who wants to Google Gene Kelly leadership, it should come up from anywhere right away. Oh, Tulsa, Gene Kelly leadership Tulsa, and that's Kelly with two E's. And then we have a collegemajorfinder.com has a website. We're working on it now. That might be another way to reach me, but probably jkelly@genekelly.com is another way.
Fabulous. That's awesome. Well, I know that our listeners are going to be tickled to death to hear our podcast today and just learning about you and the work that you do. So thank you so much for being a guest today.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome. I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.